So in this lesson, we are going to have a look at book 11, right? And we're going to focus mainly on the writing tasks. So test 1 to test 4, as you know, it's focusing on the academic test structure. Test A and B, they focus on the general paper structure, right? The charts below show the percentage of water used for different purposes in 6 areas of the world. What are you supposed to do? Summarize the information, okay? So the light blue is for industrial use, then we have agricultural use, and we have the domestic use. So as you can see, in South America, Southeast Asia, Central Asia and Africa, as well as North America and Europe, no, we don't have North America and we don't have Europe, okay? So in South America, Southeast Asia, Central Asia and Africa, the majority of water is used for agriculture. But when it comes to North America and Europe, most of the water it is used for industrial use, right? Then when it comes to Africa, South America, Central Asia, right, they use the least amount for industrial use, right? Whereas in Southeast Asia, the least is used for domestic use. In Europe also it's domestic. In South America also it's domestic, and then now North America also they use it for domestic purpose is the least one. Right, so I'd like you to pause the video for 20 minutes and write down an answer. Once you finish doing that, I will then write a sample answer so we can look at it. Now what do? You follow the 5-step process, okay? So when you do that, make sure you write the introduction, you write the overall view, and then you write 2 to 3 body paras, okay? So you first analyze the question, you identify the main points, then you write the introduction, you write the overview, and then you write your detailed paragraphs, or we call them body paras, right? So I'd like you to take a few minutes, pause the video here exactly, few means 20 minutes, and then jot down your answer. Alright, so let's write down a sample answer. So let me write one and then you can check it against your one, right? The given pie charts represent the consumption of water in major parts of the world across 3 sectors: industrial, agriculture, and domestic. Next we write the overall view. Overall, most of the places or areas in the world use water mainly for agriculture, especially Asia, Africa, and South America, while North America and Europe focus towards the industrial sector. Right, so basically I think I missed on one country. Yeah, I've missed Southeast Asia. I've written Asia, so that's okay, right? So I've written Asia, Africa and South America focus more on agriculture, whereas North America and Europe focus more on industrial use, okay? Right, so let's start off with our body paras, and how you categorize it depend on how you want to put them into paras. As per the charts, out of the total consumption, the percentage of water used for irrigation in areas other than Europe and North America ranges between 71% to 88%. The second major usage in water in these areas was for domestic needs, which range from 7% to 19%. However, Southeast Asia is an exception in this group, where the water consumption is more in industry, that is 12%, than in houses, which was 7%. Okay. In terms of Europe and North America, the highest demand of water is in industries. Out of the total usage, the industrial demand of these regions is 53% and 48% respectively, when around 32% and 39% of water is used for agriculture. The average domestic use of water in these areas is 14%. Right, so what I have done here is, remember I was talking to you about the charts and I kept some blue dots. So I put South America, Asia and Africa into one para, and then I spoke about Europe and North America in a separate para because the trend was a bit different, okay. So I wrote the intro and then I nicely used my signposting words overall and spoke about the overall, where I said most of the areas in the world use mainly water for agriculture, especially in these three areas, whereas Europe and America focus on the industrial sector more. Then I wrote as per charts the total amount of consumption in terms of three specific areas. That was right. So here if you have a look at the first body para, we talk about, or I talk about the total consumption which is used for irrigation. I'm not talking about that other than Europe and North America. So keep that in mind, okay. Without that, the others use it mainly for this specific reason, for irrigation, which is agriculture, and then in these areas they use it nextly for domestic purpose. However, Southeast Asia is an exception of this, where they use it more for industrial purposes. So if you can see here out of the three, remember, so these were South America, Southeast Asia, Central Asia and Africa, okay. And then out of these, if you saw, this was mostly for agriculture, 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 fine. And then industrial use was there for this one, this one, this one, okay. But you can see that it was used 12% here for industrial use, and then 10% again for industrial use, okay. 5% again for industrial use. Africa had 7%, okay. So the second largest one here was domestic, 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 but here it was industrial. Can you see? Okay. So domestic, 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 domestic. Can you see? Higher, second highest is domestic, second highest is domestic, second highest is domestic, but here second highest is industrial, and that's what I have said. In Southeast Asia, however, right, it is exception and they have more on industry. Okay. Then I have a look at it in terms of Europe and North America. What happens? They use it mostly for the industry, and then how do the other percentages work in those two countries? Okay. So I think now you've got a good understanding as to how the answers should be structured. We've done questions before, so you know it's the same way that we're continuing it. Okay. Right. So moving on, we have academic writing task 2, which is a 40 minutes question, right? Let's have a look at it. Governments should spend more money on railways rather than roads. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this opinion? So what style of essay is this? This is an opinion essay, or we call it an argumentative style essay. Okay. So here they say that governments should spend money on railways rather than roads. What do you think? Do you agree or do you disagree? I'd like you to take 40 minutes and jot down an answer, and after that, let's have a look at a sample answer together. Off you go, do it on your own. Right, so hopefully you've written an answer. Let's have a look at a sample answer together, right? Let's see. Some people say that the government ought to allocate more of their budget to rail than roadways. I totally agree with this statement because trains are faster and more environmentally friendly. Body para 1. Investing in a modern train system will mean that people can get around the country faster. This is because train passengers do not have to deal with the congestion most road users experience and trains can go much faster. Therefore, people will spend less time commuting and more time doing something productively. Or let's say doing something productive which will benefit the entire society. For example, the British government recently unveiled plans to connect cities in North England with London via a high-speed rail network, and this will reduce commuting times by half. Next one. Further, trains tend to be less harmful to the environment than cars. This is due to the fact that there are hundreds of internal combustion engines, thus reducing the carbon emission. So here you can continue to write your idea. Okay, you know that you can complete the idea on that, and then you start writing your conclusion. So you can signpost and say in conclusion and say why money should be spent more on railway. Okay. Now why I have stopped it is because you know we've done so many writing tasks. Okay. By now you know what I'm getting at and what is the style of writing. So here what I've done is I've said that I totally agree with it. So I say yes, you should spend more money on the railway system. I agree with it. Okay. You can disagree with it. So what I say is investing on the modern train system is better. One thing is it's faster, okay. You don't have all the congestion that you have with all the cars and the vehicles on the road. And the other reason is it's obviously much more environmentally friendly, right, because of the ways that the engines are. Some of you can also say that it commutes more passengers at one given time. So rather than a bus or something, a train can carry far more number of passengers in the train. So it could be much easier, faster, reliable, okay. So I feel that the train system should be developed, okay. But you can disagree with it, okay. You can say no, you think that the roadways should be developed because of these reasons, right? So off you go, start writing it. I've written it in terms of the intro, 2 body paras. Body para 1 saying that it's good, it's faster because there's no traffic congestion. Body para 2, it's less harmful for the environment because how the engines have been placed. And then I'm going to write the conclusion. Alright, so with that we move on into the next task. Right, so in this task, let's have a look at what we have to talk about. The charts below show the proportions of British students at one university in England who were able to speak other languages in addition to English in 2000 and 2010. Okay, so let's have a look at the pie charts. The percentage of British students who were able to speak other language than English in 2000, and this is in 2010. So it's a percentage, so 20% no other language, 30% Spanish, here as well Spanish. So in 2000 and 2010, the highest proportion was for Spanish, and then in 2000 it was no other language. However, by 2010 it was another language, right? And here we have French only, and then we have German and 2 other languages in equal proportions, right? And French and another language in equal proportions again, right? So here we have 10% for each of these, so no other language, French only, German only, but 15% for 2 other languages and another language here, right? Alright, so I think if you see here, French only is light blue, so in 2000 it's not very clear there. Let me just color that bit. So this will be light blue here, right? And then let's take this bit which is French only, right? So this proportion here could be French only. If not, you might get confused as to why it's in the same color. So I've just put it in light blue for you so that it's nice and clear for you when you're doing your answer. Okay? So meanwhile, I'd like you to take 20 minutes and write the answer. So you know we are doing the 5-step process, right? What do? We analyze the question first. We identify the main features. We write the introduction, and then we write the overall, and we write the body paras, or rather the detailed paragraphs. Okay? So I'd like you to take 20 minutes, pause the video here and write an answer. After that, I will put up a sample answer for you. Off you go. Right, so hopefully you've written your answer. Let's have a look at a sample answer together, right? So let's start off. Let me just change the color, that would be too light. The pie charts describe the changes in the percentage of British pupils who were able to speak different types of foreign languages at university in 2000 and 2010. So when we write the overall, next para, overall, it is clear that in both 2000 and 2010, the largest percentage of students who were able to speak other languages. So we have to see what is the largest percentage. So that was Spanish, right? Was Spanish. The figure for students who spoke two other languages another language increased while the proportion of the rest of the languages decreased or remained unchanged. Body para 1. Those who spoke only Spanish accounted for the greatest proportions or greatest proportion of students in both 2000 and 2010 at 30 and 35% respectively. Continue with an increase to 20 and 15%. Those who spoke another language and those who spoke two other languages became the second and third largest groups in 2010. The proportion of those who spoke no other languages in comparison dropped by half to only 10%. Last body para or detailed para of those who were able to speak other languages French only speakers were the only groups whose proportion experienced a decline from 15 to 10%, while the proportion of German only speakers stayed at 10%. Right, so here I think we have got all the details that we want. So the first para was to tell about what are the pie charts about, right? So we can see that it talks about the percentage or the changes in terms of the number of pupils who were able to talk or speak different foreign languages in two specific years, 2000 and 2010. Then of course signposted, and then we had a look at the word overall, and we said okay, the largest proportion is this, and then some of it increases, some of it decreases, some remain unchanged. And then I had the two body paras, okay. So similar ones, similar trends in one para, right? And here I have French and other languages where the proportions declined, and German only it remained at the same level, okay. So I hope you have written a similar answer. Right, so test 2, academic writing task 2, which is our essay question. Some people claim that not enough of the waste from homes is recycled. So it's not enough, the amount that they are recycling, the waste from homes. They say that the only way to increase recycling is for governments to make it a legal requirement. To what extent do you think laws are needed to make people recycle more of their waste? Okay. So this is like an opinionated essay. To what extent do you think, right, that the laws are needed to make people recycle more of their waste? So plan your answer. Take a few minutes first, plan it, and then start writing. So you have 40 minutes to do that. Off you go on the timer, pause the video. Right, so hopefully you have your answer with you, right? Now, in order to start writing, I would draw up a little mind map. Intro, body 1. Right. So in the intro, I would paraphrase the question. Then I would obviously write my opinion, and I do believe or I do agree that the government should have a set of regulations. So I do agree. So the question is, they're asking me, to what extent do you think laws are needed to make people recycle more of their waste? So I think it is needed, and I think it is, there should be a law. There should be law and order for that specific one, right? Now the main thing is that, it's important, okay? So body para 1, I would try to explain. Right, so one thing is that you should put in your waste properly, right? To recycle, people need to separate their waste, and I think people don't actively get involved in it, right? So waste separation should be encouraged, right? So basically in body para 2, I think there should be law, and I'm going to tell why, okay? So law should be there, reason 1. Okay. Now example, in a country if people cut down trees or anything, there is a specific law. But here there is no specific law. So I think we should encourage people to follow a specific law so that they know, okay, if we do this, this is going to be our punishment, okay? So I'd like to at least put down 2 body paras. Reason 2. Why we should have it, and then finally conclusion. Okay, so here we could talk about deforestation, just like traffic for an example. Okay, where when you break the traffic rules or traffic laws, they give you a punishment, right? Just like that we should have something, and here it's just like deforestation. Because why? Doing something is always good for the environment. This is good for the environment, right? And here, if you have that, people tend to be more worried. So people more concerned. So there are 2 reasons. One is that people are more concerned about it when there are specific rules. The other thing is it's good for the environment. So 2 reasons as to why I think laws should be implemented, and finally the conclusion. So let us start writing our essay, and then you can compare it against your answer. It doesn't have to be the same thing, right? These are just my ideas. You can put down your own ideas. Right, so let's start. Waste, recycling, and people's participation in it is a major issue, and a lot of arguments could be observed among people as well as the media. Whether people should spontaneously take part in the recycling process or the government should make it a legal obligation needs a thorough discussion. I personally believe that the government should impose laws and severely fine the violators to ensure proper waste recycling. Let's start with the first body para. Firstly, waste recycling is done by the state and citizens are expected to properly divide the recyclable and non-recyclable wastages and pack them accordingly while dumping in the recycle bins. They are expected to cooperate greatly in the recycling process. However, it is a strange fact that many people do not participate in it spontaneously. Either from their negligence or from their lack of time to do so. Right, now before we continue to write it, let us see. Now the introduction, okay, I clearly stated what I feel about it. I personally believe that the government should impose laws. So the first bit here was more or less about paraphrased question. And here it is more like my opinion. What I haven't written here is what I'm going to write. Maybe you can include that, okay. Then I start with body para 1, right. So I start by saying firstly, right, what happens. Now we are supposed to separate it, right, the ones which we can recycle and the ones which we can't recycle, and put it accordingly and make sure that we then pack them up and put them into the bins. But what happens is most of the people don't do it either because they are lazy to do it, they're ignorant, or they don't have time to do it. So let's talk about reason. That was me explaining about the process, okay. Waste separation, why don't people actually do it or don't pay attention. Now I'm going to write down reason 1 and reason 2, okay. So body para, next one, I'm going to start off with saying moreover, it is true that many people abide by rules only from the concern of punishment or fine, not from their conscience. For instance, when the penalty for traffic rule violation went up last year, people started following them. In my city. Similarly, if laws are introduced and the authorities start penalizing more people would recycle more of their wastages. Or let's just say more of their wastage. The final point, not the conclusion but the third body para, waste recycling is a very handy process to save our environment and there are many rules to protect our environment. While deforesting is a severe crime in my country, there is no visible law for recycling waste. This is why people are very careless about their waste management in my country. This is why proper laws are required. Finally, in conclusion, most of the citizens in our country already know about the importance of saving the environment and how individual efforts of recycling can improve environmental conditions. Since many people do not participate in waste recycling, there is no alternative than to impose laws to have this done. Right, so here I have written the final point. I think we discussed the before bit, right? So we discussed this one. We had to move over, right? We discussed why it is important, right? Because if laws are there, then people will start paying attention to it, just like, you know, traffic violation is there, right? Another reason is that it's very good for the environment if you follow this process. So if again you have proper laws in place, then of course it's good and people will start obeying the laws, right? Finally, in conclusion, I say that yes, it is important to have laws in practice because there is no other alternative unless that people will not listen. So basically a very quick kind of essay that I've written. Hopefully you've written a good answer there. So moving on, let's have a look at the next task. You should spend about 20 minutes here. The graph below shows average carbon dioxide emissions per person in the United Kingdom, Sweden, Italy and Portugal between 1967 and 2007, right? So let us have a look at what really happens to the carbon dioxide emission. Let me just color code it a bit so it will be easier for you to follow through, right? So this one here, the blue line, right, is Portugal, right? So it's nice and clear there for you, right? Let me do Sweden up. So again, it's clear. So the pink line here is Sweden. So this is Sweden, right? I think the other two are quite straightforward. You have United Kingdom right on top and the dark black line is Italy. So if you see, in terms of United Kingdom, it was quite stable for some time, for about 10 years, and then started to decline. Portugal was low. It was below 2, right, in metric tons. It was below 2 metric tons in 1967, but throughout the years it has increased, and in 2007 it's just below 16 metric tons, right? Italy again was just above 4 tons and then it has increased, and since 1997 to 2007 it has remained stable, okay? On the other hand, Sweden had an increase, but from 1977 it's declining, and by 2007 it's below 6 metric tons, right? So you can see which ones have increased, okay? It is Italy and Portugal that has increased. However, Sweden has increased for some time but then started to decline, and then UK again was stable for some time and then declined. So I'd like you to take a few minutes and jot down an answer. Off you go. Take 20 minutes to do the task. Alright, so let's have a look at a sample answer which a student has written, right? Now here you can see the graph shows the changes in emission of carbon dioxide in 4 European countries in the period from 1967 to 2007. Good, but there are a few things that is missing there, like the type of graph, okay? And then again, could paraphrase more. So quite similar to the question again. Then the overall is missing, but you have straight away the detailed body paras. I'd like you to read it on your own, right? And then again you have another body para here, right? And then finally, the changes in emission of carbon dioxide can be connected with the changes in economical development. We really can't judge those kind of things, okay? So I don't really know about this para, might not be a good idea to write. However, this kind of answer could give you a 6.0, right? The student has written data, but there are grammar errors, there are structural errors, but the student is writing some positive features in terms of language, vocab, grammar, etc. Okay, so if you see the marking criteria as to why and how you could get a 6, you would understand as to why this answer has a 6.0. So I hope you have written something which is similar or maybe better than this if you want to get a 7. And as I always tell you, you need to write and get your answers assessed. Alright, so moving on into task 2. Some people say that the only reason for learning a foreign language is in order to travel or, in order to travel to or work in a foreign language. So some people say that the only reason for learning a foreign language is in order to travel to or work in a foreign country. Others say that these are not the only reasons why someone should learn a foreign language. Discuss both views. So what type of essay is this? This is a discussion style essay. And then you are also supposed to give your view, right? So you can think about what you want to write. You can either agree to the first view, or you can agree to the second view, or you can have a balanced view, right? Think about how you want to structure your answer. Take 40 minutes in total to plan and write your answer. Off you go. Alright, so let's have a look at a sample answer that a student has written, right? Many may say that, many may say, and I agree to that, today's society has almost erased all its borders and soon will become limitless in what concerns traveling for both work and pleasure, right? So I'd like you to go through this answer. I don't need to read it, okay? So go through this, pause it if you need to, right? This is like a 7 band score answer. Student has developed well on the answer, right? Clear progression of the student's opinion. Topic sentences seem to be quite clear, right? Punctuation and grammar has been handled really well, and there are frequent error-free sentences. So I'd like you to go through this answer and see what are the things that you could pick up for your answer, okay? Alright, so we're coming into the last test, which is there for academic students, right? And in this test, you have a table which shows the number of visitors to Ashdown Museum during the year before and the year after it was refurbished. The charts show the result of surveys asking visitors how satisfied they were with their visit during the same 2 periods. So here you go. During the year of refurbishment, there was a total number of 74,000 visitors. During the year after refurbishment, it was 92,000. So before and after. Now the results of the surveys, it was before refurbishment and it was after refurbishment. So most of them were dissatisfied, which was 40%, and then 30% said that, yeah, they are satisfied. Okay, so the lines which go this way. 10 said very dissatisfied, and then 15% said they're very satisfied, and then 5% no response. Okay, whereas after refurbishment, 40% were very satisfied, 40% were satisfied, 35% were very satisfied, and only 15% were dissatisfied. And the 5% with no response remained the same, whereas very dissatisfied reduced by 5% again. So you can see after refurbishment, nice positive responses. So I'd like you to take 20 minutes and write down an answer. Off you go. Alright, so I hope you have written an answer. So this one, I'm going to ask you to do it alone for homework. So I'm not going to put up a sample answer because I've done 3 tests with you. I've done many more others with you as well before this lesson. So I'd like you to do this on your own. Okay? Right, so assuming you finished that, let's have a look at writing task 2. Now here, let's have a look at the question. Many governments think that economic progress is their most important goal. Some people, however, think that the other types of progress are equally important for the country. Discuss both these views and give your opinion, right? So what has happened here? This is a discussion style essay and you know what to do, right? Discuss view 1, discuss view 2 and give your opinion. Again, you're going to do this on your own and you have 40 minutes. Right, so with that we come to the end for academic students and we move on with the test A, which is for general students. Now let's have a look at the letter that we're supposed to do. You recently received a letter from a friend asking for advice about whether to go to college or to try to get a job. You think he or she should get a job. Write a letter to your friend. So friend means, what does it mean? It means that this is an informal letter. Say why he or she would not enjoy going to college. Explain why getting a job is a good idea for him or her. And suggest the types of jobs, okay? Oops, it should be jobs. Suggest the type of jobs that would be suitable for him or her, right? If it is one job, you could talk about that. If it is many, you could talk about a few options. So I'm going to give you 20 minutes to jot down your answer. Remember, 150 words minimum must be there. And how is the order? Para 1, para 2, para 3. These 3 bullet points. You could have an intro para and a last para to round off your idea. Off you go, 20 minutes. Right, so I hope you would have finished writing your answer. Let's start by writing a sample answer. So let's take a name. Dear, so here there's dots, so I'm going to start by saying Dear Mary. You are doing great. And thank you for writing to me. You have asked me for advice regarding the next step you should take. Either to join a college or alternatively get a job. I would suggest that you gain some work experience before pursuing higher education. So first body para, first bullet point, as I personally know you, you would not enjoy going to college right now because you have always wanted to work, and what better time can it be to work than now? I personally feel getting a job is a better idea for you, as it would expose you to the real business world which you can capitalize in your education since you are interested in studying business administration. Now in the next para, so first para I just gave little introduction and then I explained why she would not enjoy going to college. Now in the next para I need to explain why getting a job is a good idea for her and then finally suggest the types of jobs that she could do, right? So I'm going to continue. I joined university just after finishing high school and consequently I couldn't get any job experience in my field which I often regret. I believe you should not make the same mistake and instead take the opportunity to gain some valuable skills such as managing time, delegating tasks, meeting deadlines, and working in a team. The job experience will enhance your decision making and presentation skills. Moreover, it will open doors for better job opportunities in the future. Next para. What type of jobs, right? I feel you should work in a large retail shop as a salesperson or perhaps join a small company that serves customers directly. It makes sense as it would be easier for you to find such a job in your city, and it would let you understand the business frame closely. I hope my suggestion would help you decide what is best for you. With love, Emily. So here, nicely, we have compiled a good letter to our friend, right? So we had a look at the intro and then why you should take up this job. Finally, what type of job would suit you the best, and then kind of a concluding sentence with love, Emily. So I hope you would have written a sample, not a sample, you would have written an answer. So you could post it in the comment section so we could have a look at it, or make sure to get your letter assessed, okay? Right, so moving on into task 2, you have an essay. Employers sometimes ask people applying for jobs for personal information such as their hobbies and interests. Okay, so hobbies and interests. And whether they are married or single. Some people say that this information may be relevant and useful, others disagree. Discuss both views. So what is view 1? That personal information and having understanding their hobbies, interests, married or single, getting that kind of information is useful and relevant. Others, however, view 2, disagree. Right, and then you can give your opinion. So I'd like you to take 40 minutes and jot down your answer, okay? Right, so I hope you would have written an answer. Let's write down a sample answer for this one, okay? Right, some people, oops, let me just erase that. Some people think that employers should ask personal questions however others oppose this idea. This essay will present or will discuss both views as well as discuss my point of view. Body para 1. The advocates believe that asking interviewees personal questions like hobbies and interests makes employers understand more about the personality of the job seeker. Therefore, the employer will be able to judge whether the interviewee will fit into the company's culture. For example, airline companies give their employees the benefit of flying free on a standby basis. If someone does not like traveling, the person will not appreciate such a benefit. Moreover, they will not be able share their traveling experience or experiences like everyone else. However, others think that personal information could have an adverse effect on the hiring decision. For instance, if the hiring manager knows that interviewee just had a new baby, the manager may assume that the interviewee may not be able to meet work expectations because of personal commitment. Hence, may not be hired. Employers sometimes reject people living far away because they assume this may affect punctuality. In conclusion, I believe diversity is important in the workplace. The diversity of thoughts and opinions lead eventually to better decisions. This can be achieved by asking less personal questions. The less personal info or information the interviewer has, the less likely they will take a biased hiring decision and more likely to share diversified simplified thoughts. So here we have written a good answer, right, which gives you a good understanding of the topic. So I'd like you to pause the video and go through how I've written about both views, and then finally touch on the opinion where I think they should not ask personal questions. If you want, you can put it at the start as well. This was just another way to show you that you could write an answer this way as well. Alright, so here you have to write a letter. You recently attended a meeting at a hotel. When you returned home, you found you had left some important papers at the hotel. Write a letter to the manager, which means it is a formal letter. And then you need to say these three things. Where you think you left the papers, explain why they are so important, and tell the manager what you want him or her to do. So I'd like you to take 20 minutes and write your answer. Alright, so I hope you would have finished writing your answer by now. Let's have a look at a sample answer that a student has written. Dear sir, hello, I have a request to your hotel. I have been there and I hope you too remember that I conferenced your hotel a few days ago. So you can see that there are grammar errors. The student has not written enough words, okay. So this kind of answer would give you a 4.5 roughly, okay, because you haven't really answered the questions. No specific sentence range is being, put through with this piece of writing, okay. We can't really understand what the student is trying to say, apart from a few sentence, phrases here and there. So this would be something like a 4.5. So I hope you would have written a better answer to get a better score. Right, okay, so moving on into writing task 2. Some people say that in all levels of education from primary school to universities, too much time is spent on learning facts and not enough on learning practical skills. Do you agree or disagree? Now that is a choice that you can make. You can either agree completely or disagree completely. That would be better, right? So what do you think about it? I'd like you to take 40 minutes and write down an answer. Right, so I hope you would have finished writing your answer by now. Let's have a look at a sample answer. So I'm not going to read this, but I would like you to pause the video and read through it on your own. Okay, now you're in the advanced level, you need to be doing a lot of work on your own. So if you have a look at this and then go through the sentences, the vocabulary, coherence and cohesion, this kind of answer would give you roughly like a 6.5, right? So go through the marking criteria and see student is writing some simple sentence structures with some language, okay? We do understand some of the sentences, so this kind of writing would give you a 6.5, right? And I hope you would have written something better than this. As I always tell you, make sure to get your writings assessed by someone. Alright, so moving on into test C, right? Your local council is considering closing a sports and leisure center that it runs in order to save money. Write a letter to the local council. In your letter, give details of how you and your friends or family use the center. Explain why the sports and leisure center is important for the local community, and describe the possible effects on local people if the center closes. So I'd like you to pause the video here and take 20 minutes to write down your answer. So I hope you would have finished writing the answer by now. Let's have a look at a sample answer. So again, I'd like you to read through the sample answer. Now if you read through this, you will realize that the student has achieved in writing all 3 bullet points, right? Student is trying to write complex sentence structures, right? Even though there are some or few errors here and there. address the letter really well. Coherence and cohesion is there. Use of language is there. This kind of answer would give you somewhat like a 7. Okay, so hopefully your answer is somewhat similar to this standard or even above this. Right, you can pause the video if you need more time and go through the sample answer, right? Next one, writing task 2. News stories on TV, that is television, and in newspapers are often accompanied by pictures. Some people say these pictures are more effective than words. What is your opinion about this? What do you think? Do you think that the pictures are actually more effective than the words, or do you think it's not that effective? I'd like you to plan your answer and then write your answer. In total, you have 40 minutes. Right, so hopefully you've finished writing an answer. Let's have a look at a sample answer that a student has written. Again, I want you to read this and understand. Okay, have a look at the marking criteria and see what are the features that you can see. It's very, very important that you do that, right? So having a look at this kind of sample answer, right? This kind of answer would give you a 6.0. Student has achieved the task. I mean, the answer is there for the question, right? Some level of coherence and cohesion is there, right? Use of simple sentences are quite accurate, but trying to write complex with a few errors, right? This kind of answer would give you a 6.0. Now, I'm not going to help you with writing task 1 and 2 in test D. I'm just going to put it down for you so you know what to do. What do you do? Read the question on your timer and write the answers, and that for you is homework, right? Here is task 1. You work for an international company and you have seen an advertisement for a training course which will be useful for your job. So you are writing a letter to your manager, okay? And then these 3 bullet points must be covered. So take 20 minutes and write that. And here is your task 2. Write about the following topic. Some people say that it is possible to tell a lot about a person's culture and character from their choice of clothes. Do you agree or disagree? Okay. It depends. Some of you can say, yes, I totally agree. Some of you can say, no, I totally agree. Some of you can say, well, I agree, but I don't agree with these facts. You could have a balanced view. So off you go and write your answer. Alright, so hopefully you finished writing it after 40 minutes. That's for you for homework. And with that, we have come to the end of the lesson. Okay, so today we were having a look at the Cambridge book 11.